Hey, I'm Tony Angelo, the host of Hot Rod Garage, and I'm here with our SEMA project that we built on the show. It's a 1972 Cuda. We built up drift style, so it's a hot rod drift project. It's kind of one of a kind. We call it the Fishtail Cuda. Now, this is something I've wanted to do forever. I have a hot rod background, but I have a drifting background, and I love driving, and I wanted to build something that would be kind of different and cool and sort of still stay in the hot rod world. And I've wanted a Cuda forever because basically it's the best muscle car of all time. End of story. And I finally got one, and we put it together with a bunch of rad parts, and I'll start showing it to you now. So for the look, I really wanted this thing to be sort of Trans Am inspired, but also have some drift style to it. So you can see it's got a Trans Am lip on the front of it. It's actually exactly what they're running on the old AAR Cuda cars these days. Like the car that Dan Gurney and stuff drove back in the 70s has that exact spoiler on it. I was able to track the guy down and get one of the spoilers off of him. The back has sort of a drift style, you know, straight up spoiler and some flares on there, which are totally necessary. People are kind of freaking out about the flares. We built this car in 6 weeks. It was my original intention to run a metal fender flare. But again, 6 weeks from more or less dragging out of some guy's barn in Kentucky to what you see here, that wasn't gonna happen. It might be an upgrade later, but I do like the way it looks now. And most of the real magic happens under the hood here. This is a 6.4 liter Gen 3 Hemi. It's using the new Crate Hemi plug and play kit that Mopar just unveiled yesterday. It's a super easy kit, more or less. It's a power distribution block, an ECU that's already tuned, a gas pedal, and a wiring harness. You have to hook up 6 wires and this thing will fire right up and run fantastic. Now obviously any real drift car is going to need a manual transmission so you can stab the clutch and do all sorts of things like that. As we move on back, it's got a Tremec T56 Magnum in there. Connecting the two is a Hayes Dragon Claw twin disc clutch. I want to be able to use this car a little bit on the street, so that thing is kind of streetable. It's a sprung hub. Inside, just keeping it super clean. It's got a Race Pack IQ3S, which is sort of a race dash, but also does street stuff. It's got a fuel gauge, it's got turn signals, stuff like that. Again, street and track car. Now I've got stock E-body seats in it. I've seen a lot of comments about this online. It's basically a temporary thing. This will be fine to drive around on the street. I will put something with some bolsters in it and probably that will accept real 5-point harnesses after the show, maybe half a cage as well. We were getting this thing more or less SEMA ready, not race ready. Sweet billet Asd Handbrake in there. You can see the Willwood pedals. And what that Asd Handbrake is controlling, if you come on down here, I have 2 4-piston calipers mounted on the rear axle. One of them goes to the foot brake and one of those goes to the handbrake. A divorce setup like this is a little bit easier to control. There's no feedback through the pedal when you pull the handbrake, stuff like that. If you want real control, you should, and you're doing a drift car, you'd want to do something like this. A dual caliper setup is the only way to go. And again, since it is a drift car and it's meant to slide around and really handle, we spent most of our time focusing on suspension. So if you come underneath here, you can see everything we went through to make this thing work. So under here, you can see the bottom of our custom 3-link. 3-link is a rear suspension setup that's got great articulation. It can be set up for awesome grip and handling, and it's pretty simple as far as packaging because I didn't want to cut the Cuda up too bad, and we wound up not having to do too much to the actual chassis itself as far as hacking it up to make all this stuff fit. We used QA1 lower brackets from their 6-link system for the A-body. I made the lower arms fit this Curry Fab 9 rear end, and beyond that, we used QA1 upper link off an 05 Mustang, a circle track front mount that I found that's adjustable, and a Johnny joint from Curry made everything go together. Well, I welded that onto the top of the rear axle. So it's nice and clean, it's nice and simple, it's very adjustable. We put a Tanks 16-gallon universal street rod style tank in there because of where the panhard and everything is in this car. We had no space to put a stock tank, but this thing's pretty cool, and I can fill it through the trunk. And we can go up to the front of the car. I can show you a little bit more of the suspension. Now, I wanted to have a rack and pinion in there for really good steering feel and feedback. You can come in. We did everything we could to put the rack exactly where we needed it to go, just in line with the lower control arm. But what that did for us is that made headers almost impossible. So I had one of my buddies, this guy Mike Scudleric, we call him Scuds, come in, and if you see, the headers are sort of one of a kind. They actually split around the steering shaft. It's a pretty unique solution to a pretty serious problem. And that's the kind of stuff you have to do when you're getting very much one-off to make things work. Beyond that, it's all QA1 coilovers, front and rear. If you can see, I handmade the lower control arms in the front to get the width and the adjustability that I wanted out of this car. We kept it in the sort of standard single wishbone up top, strut rod on the bottom, and a single lower control arm, just like a regular Mopar. But we were able to work inside those confines to get the adjustability and the performance that we're looking for. See if you can see it. I'll crank the wheel. Handmade those. QA1 sent over the right length coilover. We handmade these strut bars to work just how we needed them. And then that's a stock QA1 upper arm piece. So that's about it. Car is, like I said, a real special mix of hot rod style, Trans Am style, and drift style, and also street and track car. So it's sort of this very wild, unique unicorn of a car that we built. I'm really excited about it, and I cannot wait to get it behind the wheel and drive this thing for real.